What is going on, world at large? You are listening to another live broadcast of Real Steel Sports on Spreaker Web Radio. This is your host, the one, the immeasurable, James Schneer. I hope everybody that is listening to this in the United States is having a phenomenal 4th of July. Or if you hear this after the 4th of July, I hope you had a great 4th. And for those of you that are listening to this and planning on doing things after to celebrate on the 4th, well, just be careful and don't do anything stupid. As for the rest of the world, I hope everybody is having a great day. And I'm about ready to talk some tennis here, because we have reached the pinnacle of the most prestigious tournament in tennis. We have reached the Wimbledon final. We are hours away, actually about 12 hours away, from witnessing the crowning of either first-time Grand Slam champion Genie Bouchard or the second major in the career of Czech Petra Kvitova. I will be breaking down how this match will transpire. I will analyze their offense, defense, and all their strokes and come up with the best possible outcome. Starting with Bouchard, if you look at her resume, she has been so impressive this year at Wimbledon because it's just because she's so young. She's only 20 years old, been on the tour for less than 5 years, and you look at her career results already, she's reached at least the semis in 3 of the 4 majors. What makes her so impressive is how she composes herself. What she is able to do is something that I've not really seen anybody do as effectively as she does since the days of Andre Agassi. Take the ball off the bounce and hit it offensively on grass. Because Federer can do it very well too. But again, Andre at that was just at a whole nother level than anybody we'd ever seen. But that's a different comparison for a different time. But Bouchard is so good at hitting it off the bounce, taking the time away, and just making you move. The funny thing is that you listen to some of the top players talk about her, they'll tell you that she's very aggressive, and when she has the tempo of her ground game raised up a little bit, it's like hell playing against her. Another plus for her is that her movement is incredibly underrated, and that she is one of the best movers in the women's tour because she is able to go from side to side and forward and backwards without much problem, without much effort, or without any real difficulties. But what I think makes her, underrated is her serve. I mean, she doesn't have a big serve. She's not going to win any ace competitions, but her percentages are going to be up there. She's going to get a good little bit of oomph on it, and when she hits her spots just right, she's very tough to break and very tough to beat. I look at her and I think, this girl's got a chance to win several majors. If she's literally on the stepping stone of her first and she's not even 20. Now, it's kind of funny we say that because it seems so young, but when you look at the other great champions in the history of the game, such as, I believe Serena was younger than her when she won her first U.S. Open, her first major. I believe that Martina Hingis was definitely younger. So was Celis, and so was Sharapova when they won their first majors. But the point being is this. What she is doing in this era is incredibly impressive because I know it's a wide open era, but you have to realize you're playing in an era with Serena Williams, arguably one of the greatest grass court players of all time. And also you've got other players that can hit the ball big like Li Na and Agi Radwanska and Victoria Azarenka. And the fact is that she's beaten all those players in her career. So I got to give her a lot of props. On the flip side, we have the lefty Czech Petra Kvitova. Won the Wimbledon title a few years back in 2011. But since then has really, not made that much of a splash. She's 24 years old out of the Czech Republic, and her lefty serve is vicious. She's not gonna, again, she's like Bouchard in that she's not gonna hit a lot of aces. What she's able to do is she's able to hit with pace, and she's able to work her opponents out wide in the ad court to really just take them off the court. Currently number 6 in the world as of June 23rd. Another thing about her playing style is that although it's not conducive to a lot of aces, she will generally hit her spots very cleanly. When she does, not so much pace, but more or less its precision is what's going to get her any aces. In 2011, when she won the tournament, she had third most to anybody when she hit 36 aces. She's really good, though, off the ground. A little bit better than Bouchard, where Bouchard is more or less like straightforward kind of attack. Kvitova's really good at angles, and her game is much more versatile than given credit for. But there is a catch to her kind of style. She plays really close to the baseline, and she doesn't take it off the bounce as well as Bouchard, so she's going to naturally make quite a few more unforced errors. But in hindsight, if she's on her game, she can beat anybody. I mean, she's had some really impressive wins in her career. If you look at the 2011 title that she won, for example, she was incredibly impressive in the final, taking out Sharapova in straight sets, took out Azarenka in the semifinals. And also, as her draw went on, Janina Wickmeyer, the young Belgian, blew her off the court. She's had some really impressive wins. She came back from a set down against Kuznetsova. Actually, no, she didn't do that. I'm looking at a different part of the draw. My bad. Wrong person. But you get the point, is that when she won this title, she played some really good ball and had to beat some of the better players in the world. Azarenka, Sharapova, you name it. But when you look at the way these two match up with each other, it's a style of play that I think is a slight advantage on this court to Bouchard. And the reason why is because if this was a clay court, I'd be giving an edge to Kvitova because of her more versatile game, or like a slower hard court. A faster hard court, I think, would neutralize things and make them even, but Bouchard is really playing some good defense, and she's moving well on the grass, which a lot of female players that have won this title in the past don't necessarily move well on this surface. But when you look at the way she moves on this surface, really smooth, kind of like Federer in a way. But when you look at the head-to-head between the two of them, it's only 1-0 Kvitova. It's not like a big win to loss. But then again, they haven't played each other very often because one of them's only been on the tour for a few years. That match actually took place last summer in Canada, Kvitova winning 6-3, 6-2 in the round of 32. So, if anything, it's been a pretty, unpredictable way to talk about this match, because you can't really use the past match because there were so many things that were different back then versus now. And besides, that match, looking at it, Bouchard 1 ace, 8 double faults, and didn't even win half her serve points. That's not the kind of numbers, those aren't the kind of numbers you're going to get from this match. She's much more mature and composed than she was back then. And Kvitova, again, I know she is in the Wimbledon final this year, but she's had roughly had a down year. I mean, Bouchard's record so far this year, 30-13, one title, and more than twice the amount of prize money taken in. But ultimately, when you look at the way these two players match up with each other, I think you have to give a slight edge to the Canadian. And there's a reason why. Kvitova is very good against bigger hitting opponents because she's able to use their pace and use their force to redirect shots. But the thing about it is Bouchard doesn't have just one gear like a Sharapova. Like when Kvitova beat Sharapova in the final a few years ago, there's a reason why. She just redirected all her pace and made Sharapova move. That's not going to work on Bouchard because she's so much quicker and because she's not going to give Kvitova 10, 12 double faults a match. Also, what I've noticed is that Bouchard has been very good at making adjustments in her matches, and she's used pretty much a different playing style at beating all of her opponents, from Elise Cornet to Angelique Kerber to Simona Halep. So I expect her to adjust. If Kvitova is going to win this match, she's got to do one thing well, and she's got to bring her serve. She's got to put up at least 8-9 aces in this match. I mean, that doesn't sound like much, but when you think about it, the women's tour isn't conducive to hitting aces anyway. But the bottom line is, Kvitova has to serve well. And she really has to be able to make Bouchard move and make her feel uncomfortable going left and right. Bouchard, on the other hand, again, you just look at how things match up in this final. The one thing Bouchard cannot afford to do is she cannot afford to overthink it. The funny thing is that, you know, she's been in the semifinals of 3 majors this year, and the final, obviously, this one. But when you think about it, she's literally not letting the moment get to her unless you want to count the Australian one. But if you look at that match, where she lost in the semis in the Australian, against Li Na, it wasn't even a really close match. But when you look at the road that Genie had on the way to get to that point, she had to take out the Australian Delacroix in 3 sets. You know, she had a tough second set against Rosano, tough first set against Tang. You just look at the way that tournament went for her. She was pretty gassed by the time she played Li Na, and Li Na was pretty fresh. So I would have to say, based on this year alone, Bouchard would be the clear favorite. Based on the way they match up with each other, I gotta say Bouchard wins this match. I think she will win this, and it's a very close call, because there's one thing that can separate these two that can make this a really, really interesting match, and that's how well they execute their game plan. If Bouchard's able to move Kvitova around and take the ball off the rise and not be intimidated by her serve, she'll win. If Kvitova is able to move Bouchard off the court with her serve and use her ability to redirect pace with angles, then she'll win. But what I see happening more is I see Bouchard's energy, I see her ability to take the ball early. I see that being a bigger upside on this surface than Kvitova. Because, again, even though the grounds of Wimbledon have changed, this surface is still very conducive to guys who hit big. And the women who hit big as well. Ultimately, I picked Bouchard to win this. I'd say she wins this in 3 sets. I say it's going to be a real toughie. I say that, if anything, Kvitova might take the first set, but I think the way Bouchard's adjusted in her matches, I think she'll do it again, and by the end of the day tomorrow, I believe that she will be holding up her first Grand Slam trophy and the first Grand Slam singles title for any Canadian. Personally, I want to see her do it because, you know, it's not that I dislike Kvitova. I like Bouchard. I like how she's really, you know, showing maturity. She's up and coming. She's, you know, young and got years ahead of her. And because, you know, she's Canadian. You know, the fact that it's really close to home. The fact that it's like right next to, you know, the fact that it's right above the United States. You know, the fact that it's close. And I got to say that I am pulling for her to win this. I think she's going to, because I think she's got a lot more going for her. And again, Kvitova, she didn't even look that great in her semifinal win, pardon me. Excuse me, against Safarova. And this whole tournament, Kvitova's played good, but then again, Venus gave her a heck of a match. And I would have to say, if there's any player right now who could really throw a monkey wrench into Kvitova's game, it'd be Bouchard, because of the way she plays, because of the way she takes the ball early, and she's aggressive, but she's not going to out-hit herself, more or less. So that's how I look at it. I think that Bouchard has a slight edge on this court. I'd say 3 sets, maybe 2 early tight ones, and then maybe a cruise in the 3rd set for Bouchard. I think she'll be able to win this match. I think that she is going to be hoisting the first major singles crown for any Canadian in the history of the open air or in the history of tennis itself. So I'm picking Bouchard to take out Kvitova in 3 sets. Alrighty, guys, that